My name is Virginia D. Knott. I am 29 years old. Nolan was 26. We had been together a little over a year, or at least I thought we had. Looking back, maybe I was the only one calling it a relationship. Maybe he had already turned me into something else in his head, something useful, something steady, something safe enough to lean on without ever truly loving. He crossed his arms and sighed, already irritated that I was not reacting fast enough. "Why are you staring at me like that? I'm being honest. Isn't that what you want?" I asked him what he meant. "Friend? How?" He rolled his eyes. "Don't be dramatic. I just mean I'm not in love the way you are. You're more like emotional support. Stable. Safe. Stable. Safe. Emotional support." The way he said it made me feel less like a woman he loved and more like a service he had grown used to. I nodded slowly, looked back at my laptop, and said the sentence that rewrote the next week of my life. "Okay, but friends don't cover expenses." He laughed. Actually laughed. "Wow. So you're going to punish me because I'm honest." "I'm not punishing you," I said. "I'm adjusting." He scoffed, grabbed his bag, and called me petty, insecure, and transactional. Then he added, almost casually, "You'll cool off. You always do." That was the real cut. Not the word friend, not even the dismissal. It was the certainty in his voice, the assumption that I would stay exactly where he left me, that I would be hurt, yes, but still available, still generous, still there. I did not argue. I did not explain. I just closed my laptop. That night, I canceled every auto payment connected to his name, rent contribution, phone, streaming services, even the grocery card I had added him to. One by one, I removed the benefits of being loved by me. I treated him like exactly what he said we were, friends. 3 days later, my phone rang from a number I did not recognize. When I answered, a woman's voice said, "Hey, do you still remember me?" Then her name lit up on my screen, Naomi, Nolan's older sister. I had not heard from her in almost a year. The last time was at a family barbecue where she joked that Nolan always landed on his feet. I laughed at the time. Now it sounded more like a warning I should have understood sooner. "Do you still remember me?" she asked again, softer this time. "Yeah," I said, "I remember." There was a pause. Then she exhaled and said, "He's kind of losing it." That tracked. Apparently, the first night I cut everything off, Nolan thought I was bluffing. He told Naomi I was being dramatic and would come crawling back once I realized how lonely it was without him. According to him, I just needed space to process my feelings like a good, predictable girlfriend. Day 2, his card was declined at a cafe. He texted me angry, not worried. "Did you seriously remove me from the account?" I replied with one sentence. Friends don't share finances. He left me on read for 8 hours. By day 3, reality started sinking in. Naomi told me Nolan had not gone to work. He stayed in bed scrolling, refreshing his banking app like it was broken. He kept repeating the same line over and over. "She wouldn't actually do this. She knows I need her." That sentence hit harder than anything else. Not because it was surprising, but because it was honest in a way the rest of him never was. I asked Naomi why she was calling me. Another pause. Longer this time. "Because he won't call you directly," she said. "He says you're being cruel and he refuses to beg, but he is absolutely panicking." I looked around my apartment. It was quiet, clean, peaceful. No tension, no attitude. No low-grade exhaustion from loving someone who tolerated me more than he treasured me. "So what do you want?" I asked. She hesitated. "Honestly, I want to know if you're serious, like really done supporting him." "Yes," I said, "I'm serious." She exhaled slowly, like she had just gotten confirmation of something she already suspected. "Okay, then I should probably tell you something because Nolan still thinks he has leverage." That was the first time since the breakup that I felt truly uneasy. "Oh, leverage," I repeated. Naomi hesitated. "He thinks you won't really walk away because you always paid. You always fix things. He built his life assuming you'd keep doing that." That stung more than I wanted it to. Not because it was shocking, because it was true. "He told me you'd calm down once you realized how much he added to your life," she continued. "What he added was noise, bills, mood swings, the constant feeling of being tolerated instead of chosen. He's telling people you're controlling," Naomi said, "that you're trying to scare him into staying with you. And he thinks that if he waits long enough, you'll help again. Maybe not everything, just enough." Something inside me went cold and quiet. I thought about the groceries I paid for while he complained about my taste, the rent I covered while he called my apartment temporary, the nights I stayed up reassuring him while he half listened and scrolled through his phone. "You wouldn't last a week without hearing from him," Naomi added. "He said that yesterday." I looked at the calendar on my wall. It had already been 5 days. I'm not helping him, I said. Not financially, not emotionally, not anymore. Naomi did not sound surprised. If anything, she sounded relieved. Okay, she said. Then you should know something else. He's starting to get mean. After the call, my phone buzzed again. A text from Nolan. We need to talk. You're taking this too far. I did not answer. An hour later, another message came through. I said I cared about you. I stared at the screen, then typed back. Friends don't make demands. And that was when he snapped. He did not snap loudly. That would have been simpler, easier to dismiss. Nolan snapped strategically. The next morning, I woke up to 3 missed calls and a voicemail that began calm and ended sharp. His voice had that polished edge he used whenever he still believed he could control the narrative if he sounded reasonable enough. Virginia, this is ridiculous. You're acting like I cheated on you or something. I was honest. That should count for something. Call me back so we can fix this like adults. Fix this. I replayed that word in my head for longer than I should have, as if this was a misunderstanding instead of a revelation, as if the problem was not what he said, but my refusal to keep absorbing it quietly. I did not call him back. By noon, mutual friends started texting. Not one of them asked how I was. They did not lead with concern, only curiosity dressed up as politeness. Hey, what's going on with you and Nolan? He seems really hurt. He said you cut him off without warning. That last message nearly made me laugh. Without warning. I thought about the months of warning signs I had ignored. The way he always said, I'm just not emotional like you, whenever I needed reassurance. The way he joked that I was basically his wife whenever bills came up, then pulled away the second I asked for tenderness. The way he let me carry the weight of the relationship, then acted inconvenienced when I wanted to feel chosen. I replied to no one. That afternoon, he showed up at my apartment. No message, no heads up, just pounding on the door like he still had a right to access me on demand. When I opened it, he walked past me automatically, like the invitation was implied. He sat on the couch, crossed his legs, and looked around. So, he said, you really did it. Yes, I said. He frowned. You're being dramatic. I'm being consistent. That annoyed him immediately. Nolan hated calm when it came from me. Calm meant I was no longer scrambling to keep the connection alive. Calm meant I had stopped negotiating against myself. You can't just withdraw support because I don't feel the same way, he snapped. That's manipulative. I leaned against the kitchen counter and kept my voice level. I didn't withdraw support. I stopped pretending we were something we're not. He stared at me like he was waiting for me to soften. When I did not, his tone shifted. Do you have any idea how hard things are for me right now? I nodded. I do, and that isn't my responsibility anymore. That was when his face changed. So what, you're just going to abandon me? I looked straight at him. Friends don't abandon each other. They just don't fund each other. His face flushed. You think you're better than me now? No, I said quietly. I think boundaries are better than confusion. He stood up so fast the couch cushion lifted behind him. You're going to regret this, he said. You'll see. As he stormed out, I felt something settle in me with unsettling clarity. He was not heartbroken. He was furious he had lost access. After that, I went quiet. Not passive-aggressive quiet. Not strategic silence meant to punish him. I just stopped reacting, stopped explaining, stopped making myself available for every emotional aftershock he created. That absence frustrated him more than any argument ever could. 2 days later, he sent me a payment request. $420. Caption, utilities you forgot about. I stared at it for a full minute before declining it with one sentence. Friends split their own bills. He lost it. The text came fast and sharp. Wow, so you're really going to pretend I don't exist after everything I gave you? I thought you were different. I trusted you. You know I don't have anyone else right now. That last one sat on my screen longer than the others. Not because it moved me, because it exposed him. Trust to Nolan had never meant mutual care. It meant confidence that I would stay useful. That night, Naomi texted me again. He's telling Mom you financially abused him. I closed my eyes and exhaled slowly. There it was, the rewritten version. In his story, I was now the controlling girlfriend who used money to trap him, and he was the wounded man who finally spoke his truth and suffered for it. She called right after. He's saying you're punishing him for not loving you back, she said. That you're being vindictive. I asked the only question that mattered. Does anyone believe him? Naomi hesitated. Some people are confused. He sounds convincing when he gets there first. That did not surprise me. Nolan had always known how to perform sincerity, but then she added, he slipped up today. I sat up straighter. How? He told Mom you'd cave eventually because you can't stand being the bad guy. There it was again. That same assumption, that I cared more about being liked than being respected, that if he waited long enough, guilt would bring me back into line. The next morning, I got a text from an unfamiliar number. "Hey, this is Marcus. We met at Nolan's birthday. He's not doing well. Maybe you should reach out." I did not reply. An hour later, another message came through, this time from Nolan. "I never said I didn't want you. I just needed time." I stared at those words and felt nothing. That was the real breaking point. Not anger, not sadness, indifference. Cold, clean, final indifference. He was running out of versions of the same lie, and I was running out of reasons to care. By the end of the week, his tone shifted again. He stopped sounding angry and started sounding polite. That was how I knew he was scared. He texted like nothing had happened. Little check-ins, casual messages, familiarity used as bait. "Did you see the weather today? I found your hoodie. Want it back? Remember that Thai place you like?" I ignored every one of them. Then he tried nostalgia. One night he sent me a photo of us from months ago. We were standing side by side, and underneath it he wrote, "We were happy here." I stared at it for a long time. Not because I missed him, because I finally saw it clearly. I was smiling. He was leaning away, already half elsewhere. I deleted the photo. The next morning, Naomi called again. "He's trying to move back in with Mom," she said. She said no. That explained the panic. "He thought he could stay with a friend too," she added. "Turns out no one actually offered." I let that sit in the silence between us. Then Naomi said quietly, "He keeps saying you changed. But honestly, Virginia, I think you just stopped making his life easy." That landed with the force of truth. Later that day, Nolan dropped the mask completely. "Can we just reset?" he texted. "I don't need everything. I just need help until I get back on my feet." There it was. Not love, not us, not regret. Help! I typed one sentence, deleted it. Typed another, deleted that too. What I finally sent was simple. "You said you cared about me as a friend. This is what that looks like." He did not reply. 30 minutes later, my phone rang from an unknown number, and before I even answered, I knew the next voice would not be his. I almost did not answer the unknown number, but curiosity got there before caution. When I picked up, a woman's voice came through, measured and careful, the kind adults use when they think they are about to de-escalate someone younger and more emotional. "Virginia," she said, "this is Nolan's mother." Of course it was. There was a pause, brief but deliberate, like she expected her name alone to shift the balance. When I said nothing, she continued, "I think there's been a misunderstanding." There had not been. She explained that Nolan was under a lot of stress, that he had spoken emotionally, that he had not meant for things to come out the way they did. She told me cutting him off so suddenly was extreme. She said relationships were not transactional, and that real care did not disappear overnight. Her tone stayed polished, patient, almost maternal, in a way that would have sounded kind if I had not already spent a year learning how often softness gets used to excuse selfishness. I let her finish. Then I said, "I agree. Real care doesn't disappear overnight. It fades when it's one-sided." The silence that followed told me she had not expected resistance, at least not that direct. Finally, she tightened her voice slightly and said, "He told me you're punishing him." "I'm respecting what he told me," I said. "He said he cared about me as a friend." I adjusted accordingly. That answer did not fit the script she had prepared. I could hear it in the pause. Then she tried a different angle. "Friends don't abandon people when they're struggling." I exhaled slowly. Friends also don't expect one person to carry their whole adult life. That ended the call more quickly than it began. After that, Nolan stopped pretending to be angry and started trying to sound honest. At 2:17 in the morning, he sent one long message. No accusations, no flirtation, no insult wrapped in vulnerability, just desperation trying to pass as sincerity. He said he had not meant it the way it came out. He said he had been confused. He said he had taken me for granted because I had always been there. He said he never thought I would actually leave. That was the line that stayed with me. Not "I miss you." Not "I love you." Not "I was wrong." Just surprise. "I never thought you'd actually leave." I read the message twice, then locked my phone and put it face down on the table. Outside my kitchen window, the city looked washed out and distant, all soft yellow light and dark glass. For the first time in days, I understood that his panic was not about losing me as a person. It was about discovering I had edges. The next morning, Naomi texted again. "He packed up the rest of his stuff from your place. He keeps saying you blindsided him." I looked around my apartment. It felt lighter than it had in months. Not emptier, lighter, like something heavy had finally been lifted out of the air. I typed back, "That's not what blindsided means." A few minutes later, she sent one more message. For what it's worth, I think this is the first time anyone's ever said no to him. That line followed me through the rest of the day, because it explained more than I wanted it to. Nolan had moved through life cushioned by charm, by deflection, by the assumption that someone else would make the landing softer. First his family, then me, maybe others before I ever met him. Saying no to him did not just disrupt a romance, it interrupted a system. The silence afterward lasted almost a full day. No texts, no calls, no mutual friends testing the water, no one reaching out on his behalf. That was new enough to feel suspicious. I had just started to believe the whole thing might finally be over when my phone buzzed at 9:43 that night. I'm outside. My stomach tightened before I even opened the thread. A minute later, another message came in. Please don't ignore me. I just need 5 minutes. I did not reply right away. I stood in the kitchen, phone in my hand, counting slowly to 60, like I was trying to decide whether I wanted closure or peace more. Then I walked to the door and looked through the peephole. He looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically smaller, just dimmed somehow, deflated. He had on a hoodie that hung loose on his frame, hair pushed back like he had run his hands through it too many times, and a tote bag clutched against his side like a shield. I opened the door, but I did not invite him in. He looked up fast, relief flashing across his face. Thank you, he said. I won't take long. I did not answer. He started speaking immediately, as if he knew the moment he stopped, I might close the door. I didn't think you'd actually do this, he said. I mean, I knew you were upset, but you've always been steady. You don't just walk away. There it was again. The myth of me he had built. The version of Virginia that existed to absorb impact and stay in place. I wasn't trying to hurt you, he said. I just needed space. I thought you'd understand. I did understand, I said. That's why I stepped back. He frowned, thrown off by how quickly I answered. Not like this. What did you expect? I asked. He hesitated, and for a second I thought he might lie again. Instead, he said the honest part out loud. I thought you'd fight for me. That sentence hit differently than everything else. Not choose me, not value me. Fight. I nodded once. I already did, for over a year. You just didn't notice because it was quiet. His eyes filled, but I did not move toward him. I had done enough moving for both of us. I don't really have anywhere to go, he said finally. I just need a little help until I figure things out. I met his gaze and kept my voice even. You told me who I was to you. I believed you. He opened his mouth, then closed it. And for the first time since this began, he looked like he understood something had changed permanently. Then I stepped back and gently closed the door. I did not feel guilty. I felt done. I thought closing the door on Nolan would be the end of it. I was wrong. The next 2 days were quiet in the kind of way that feels staged, too still to trust, like the pause before someone makes one last move. No messages from him, no calls from Naomi, nothing from mutual friends. It almost felt peaceful, but not quite. Peace has a softness to it. This felt like waiting. Then late on the third day, my phone buzzed with a name I had not seen in years. His father. I stared at the screen for a second, then almost laughed. Almost. Of course, the final act would involve another member of the family stepping in. Like this was not a breakup, but a negotiation. I answered. Virginia, he said, skipping any greeting. I'll be direct. Nolan is struggling, and I think you're being unnecessarily rigid. Rigid. That was the word people used when they could not say, you are no longer doing what we want. I leaned back against the kitchen counter and let him keep talking. He made a mistake, his father said. People say things they do not mean all the time. You do not dismantle a relationship over one sentence. I stayed quiet long enough that he had to check if I was still there. He did not lose a relationship, I said finally. He clarified it. That stopped him for a beat. Then he sighed, the kind of sigh older people use when they want disappointment to sound wiser than control. You know he relied on you. Yes, I said, that was the problem. Silence. Then his father said, more slowly this time, he assumed you would always be there. I know. And now he's learning otherwise, he said, like it was an accusation. No, I replied, he's learning consequences. The conversation ended shortly after that. Not dramatically, not with shouting, just with the flat, unsatisfying tone people use when they realize persuasion is no longer an option. An hour later, Nolan texted me one last time. I didn't think saying the truth would cost me everything. I stared at the message for a long time. It was almost convincing at first glance, almost reflective, almost honest. But the more I looked at it, the more the same pattern came into focus. Even now, he was framing himself as the victim of honesty instead of the architect of assumption. Even now, he He was separating his words from the life he had built on top of them. I typed back. The truth didn't cost you anything. The assumptions did. He never responded. That night, I slept better than I had in months. The next morning, I woke up to silence. Not the tense kind. Not the kind that feels like a threat waiting behind the next notification. The earned kind. The kind that settles into a room after something heavy has finally been removed. I made coffee, paid my bills, got dressed for work, and for the first time in a long time, I did not feel like I was carrying someone who had never planned to carry me back. A week later, I ran into one of our mutual friends at the grocery store. He looked uncomfortable the second he saw me, like he had been preloaded with a version of the story and was no longer sure which one he was supposed to believe. She's telling people you abandoned him, he said quietly, that you shut him out when he was vulnerable. I nodded once. That sounds like Nolan. He hesitated. For what it's worth, once people started asking questions, his story didn't really hold up. That was the final confirmation I did not know I needed. Because once the dust settled, the details mattered. The rent in my name, the bills I had been paying, the messages, the timeline, the fact that he had already been calling me more of a friend before I ever pulled away. Once people lined up facts instead of feelings, things got very quiet on his side. No dramatic goodbye post. No vague quotes about healing. No victory lap, just silence. 2 nights later, I got one final message from Naomi. He's moving to another city. Fresh start, he says. I looked at the screen for a few seconds before replying. Tell him I wish him well. And I meant it. Not because I wanted him back. Not because I had forgotten what he turned me into inside that relationship, but because I was done carrying resentment that did not belong to me anymore. I had carried enough. His comfort, his instability, his excuses, his version of love. I was not carrying bitterness too. Here is the part people rarely tell you. Walking away does not feel powerful at first. It does not feel cinematic. There is no music swelling in the background, no perfect speech, no applause waiting on the other side of the door. Most of the time, it feels quiet, uneventful, almost disappointingly ordinary. But then one morning, you realize your body is no longer bracing for the next demand. You realize your home feels like yours again. You realize peace had been missing so gradually that you forgot what it sounded like. Nolan told me he cared about me as a friend, so I treated him like one. And when the benefits stopped, so did the illusion. That was not cruelty. That was clarity. And I do not regret it for a second.